Well, I tried to stifle that cough. A little bit of things, some of my vitamins in my vitamin drink. We'll get that in editing, right? Okay, good. Good morning. My name is Edward Bevilacqua. Today is Wednesday, August 13th, 2025. The month is almost half over. That's crazy, crazy. August 13th, 2025. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning here in southwestern Nevada, up in the hills east of Death Valley, west of Sin City, south of Area 51, in what I call George Norrie Art Bell territory, hard scrabble, sharp elbowed, rootin' tootin', pistol shooting people. And this is day 3, week 1 of our neuroscience approach to success, our neuroscience-oriented approach to success. This is the 4-week version, the State Penn workbook, as opposed to Penn State. This is State Penn. It's designed for people who are incarcerated, that have a lot of time on their hands in their cell alone. They can spend 4 hours a day on that and come out the other end a better person. So that's what we do, one day at a time here, one lecture at a time. And the worksheet down below, the worksheet has all of the information on it from the experts. Okay, so today is kind of a short one. Try to keep this to 10 minutes because this is our Wednesday volunteers breakfast at the Methodist Church, where we invite our orphans and widows to breakfast and talk about what we can do to help the churches, help those most in need. That's it. That's what we do. So, okay, where'd you rather? Okay, great. Okay, so let's see. Big day, big day. I won't be at the job site this morning because it's our volunteers breakfast. And several other reasons related and not related there too, whatever that means. Okay, cool. So let's see, as we often start our thing is, good morning, Miss Trinkle, wherever you are, wherever you is, bonk, whatever that means. And let's get on with the show. So, advice from an 80-year-old. Make it a habit to do nice things for people who will never find out. Okay, good. Dusty today. I can feel it in my eyes already. I wonder if it's windy out there. Okay, so make it a habit to do nice things for people who will never find out. Right. Seth Godin, what does Seth have to say? Seth, moving without traveling. Moving is physical. Travel is an emotional journey. Moving takes us from one place to another, one job to another, one situation to another. But if we seek to insulate ourselves from the emotional labor of travel, we can build a cocoon around our experience and discover nothing. Once we choose to see what's actually in front of us and experience it, as opposed to a defensive shorthand version that pretends to be it, but simply validates where we already are, then we can travel whenever we choose, even without moving. The alternative is to spend the time and money to move around, but never go anywhere. Okay, so that's kind of highfalutin. I have to read that one a few times to get to it, to really understand it. Darren Hardy, good one today. Transforming your brain from adversary to ally. Things you can do. So it's to like activate the parts of your brain to be like, oh, I'm making progress. You activate the reward system as opposed to the fear or cortisol system. Just ways of looking at things. Growth mindset would be another example. Adding the word yet. I can't do this yet. Jordan Peterson, Daniel Amen. Nope, not Daniel Amen. Right. Okay. TED Talk. Johan Hari, addiction. Okay, that's where we're going to spend most of our time talking about addiction, because it turns out almost everything we think we know about addiction is wrong. And when I say we, I mean the general public, not the academics, not the people who do the studies and do the research, not those people. So what is our basic idea about addiction? Addiction, we believe, is there are chemical hooks in certain drugs that once they get into our brain, we say no, even though we want to. We can't. It's just like, oh. So you might say to somebody, how many times do you have to have LSD before you become addicted, or heroin, or meth, or anything? How many times do you have to do it before you become addicted? And we're thinking there's something in the drug that gets into us, and once it's in us, we can't get it out. Alcohol, maybe. So that's kind of what we all think. The question is, where did that belief come from? Where did that belief come from? Because we didn't always believe it. A million years ago, well, that's probably a bit long. At the turn of the 20th century, that's not what people thought. Back in the 1900s, that's not what people thought at some point. They just didn't know. Then a guy came along and said, well, let's do an experiment. Let's put a rat. Why a rat? Because rats are rational creatures. They're about the lowest level of rational creature you can get to, where you really wouldn't be accused of mistreating it. So, and they don't live long, so you can do a lot of things quickly with them. So, and we don't really have an affinity for rats. We don't really think rats are cute. So if we're kind of torturing rats, or we're starving them to death, or things like that, or their hair's falling out, it doesn't bother us as much as if it was a kitty cat or a dog, say. So rats are kind of like yuck. So it doesn't hurt us as much to make them suffer. And we certainly don't care if cockroaches suffer, right? Or bed bugs suffer. Kill it. Okay. So, somebody did an experiment where they put a rat in a cage and gave it a choice of water or drug-laced water. And pretty soon found that the rat went into the drug-laced water, and often to the point of death. So the conclusion was, since rats are rational creatures and no rational creature will do something to harm itself intentionally, therefore it did it unintentionally. So there's something in the drugs that when they get into your brain, they lock on and we can't get them out. That was the idea. And that went along for decades. In fact, it persists today. And then along comes a guy named Bruce who says, maybe the problem isn't in the choices of water or drug-laced water. Maybe the problem is the cage. There's nothing for the rat to do. If it drinks the regular water, it's just there's nothing to do. It's total boredom, pain, anguish, torment, ennui, etc. But when it has the drug water, what? It feels better. The pain of life, the boredom of life, all of the negatives of life go away temporarily. And then probably gets used to it and has to take more and then becomes dependent upon it. So what he did is he created what he called Rat Park. So a cage where there's all kinds of things for the rat to do. And there are other rats and cheese and balls and wheels and tunnels and all kinds of stuff the rat could do to have fun. And guess what happened? Right. They stopped drinking the drug-laced water. In fact, they, according to Johann Hari, they barely even used it and nothing to excess. So then an experiment was inadvertently done on a large-scale group of people, and that was called the Vietnam War, where lots of active duty military were using lots of heroin when they were in Vietnam. When they came home, they just stopped, which makes no sense if there's chemical hooks. Now, not all of them stop, because if you come back to a bad life, you're still using the heroin to make you feel better. And you don't have to be around people. So, I kind of want to talk about the author, but I'm conscious of the time. So let me just say that Johann Hari, the experts will say Johann Hari probably got it right. He probably figured it out. Where everyone else was going vertically onto things, deeper studies, how much heroin, how much drugs, what kind of mongooses, how do they affect it, how's this affected? And instead of going deep onto a single thing, he went across all of these things to kind of unify them and figure out what worked, what was right, what made sense. And he was highly motivated because he had burnt his career because of drugs. And he was highly educated at Cambridge. So he had the skills and the intellect to figure it out. And he had the money to be able to go anywhere and talk to anybody to figure out the problem. So the experts say probably got it right. And the answer is the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. The people who have good, positive lives have a lot of social connection. They have friends. They're doing stuff. They're not in the house. They're not watching TV. Or doing things on the internet. They're out there doing things. They have strong social bonds. They're active. They're with people all the time, mostly not on the time. They're with people. They're not on the phone with people for hours and hours and hours. They're not just sitting there alone or sitting there with one person talking. They don't isolate. So let's say it that way. So Johann Hari said the opposite of addiction is connection. And we're approaching this addiction problem the wrong way when we sever ties with people, when we threaten people in our families or lives who have addiction problems. When we sever relationships, all we're doing is pushing them more into isolation. And because we are hardwired to seek happiness, not pain. We want to seek fulfillment. We want to seek the good positive stuff. Okay, so it's about time I got to cut this short because people are heading to work and I need to let them know what's going on. And I've got a contact lens with one sticky contact that pulls maddeningly to the left with one wobbly wheel. Okay, so with that, addiction, we probably got it wrong. Social connections, get closer to the people who have problems is what Johann Hari said. Again, this goes under the heading, who am I? We are so controlled by the neurotransmitters released in our brains, by our feelings. And we need to get in tune with that, in touch with that, so we can dial in who we need to be. And with that, we're going to say, and cut. Be back here again tomorrow and cut.